Good afternoon, everyone. Um, I'm hoping this doesn't shut off. A couple of times it shut off at one black. So I hope this doesn't. So I'm seeing if I could read it so fast it won't shut off. So I will be talking about Robin Gecht, but I think I'll be talking about the whole gang. So here it is. Other ones are Andrew Coloris, Thomas Coloris, Ed, Edward Spritzer. Was was a bunch of gangs that terrorized people over Chicago. Robin and his gang is an organized crime group of serial killers, cannibals, rapists, and necrophiliac. The group comprised of Robin Geich and three associates, Edward Spritzer and brothers Andrew and Thomas Cololers. They were suspect in murders of 17 or 18 murders of women in random drive-by shootings. According to one, the detective who investigated the case, Getch made Manson look like a Boy Scout. Like I said before, these serial killers back then makes these serial killers look like an amateur. So so yeah, I had to, but yeah, made Manson look like a Boy Scout. So the gang's first victim was a 28-year-old Linda Sutton, who was abducted on May 23rd, 1981. 10 days later, her body was found in a field in Villa Park, Illinois. Her body was had been mutilated and her and left breast amputated. This is their MO. So, and if you like Chicago, hey, I wouldn't mind going to Chicago. It's a beautiful place, but like I said, there's the dark side to every place that you go to, you know, every place. So it was almost a year before the gang struck again. On May 15th, 1982, they abducted Lorraine Barwowski just as she was about to open up the real estate place office where she worked. Her body was discovered 5 months later in a cemetery in Gladstone Hills. On May 27th, they abducted Shu Mack from Hanover Park, Villa Northwest Villa Park, Northeast, Northwest Villa Park. Yeah, sorry. The body was not found for 4 months. For 4 months, 2 weeks after they abducted Mack, they picked up Angel York in their van, handcuffed her, and slashed her breasts before throwing her out of the window of the van. Still alive, York's description of her attacker failed to produce any evidence, any leads. The gang did not strike again for 2 months. On August 28, 1982, the body was Sandra Delaware was discovered on the banks of the Chicago River. She had been she has been stabbed and strangled on her left breast and amputated. On September 8th, 31-year-old Rosa Davis was found, injuries of Delaware, in any alley, having suffered almost identically injuries as Delaware. One on October 6, 1982, the gang shot a 20-year-old Rafael Tirado, a local drug dealer, and his friend, 18-year-old Alberto Rosito, at a phone booth in a random drive-by shooting. According to the searcher, he was with Gecht, taken the older man shot him and slowed down. Gecht took two guns from the back of his car, fired at Toronto and Rosa, hitting both of them. Rosa survived his injuries, and in the hospital, Toronto was the gang's only male victim. That same day, the gang committed their final crime. Robin Gates alone lured a prostitute, Beverly Washington, into a car offering more money than what she asked for, and found and her body was found in a railroad track. So, in addition, the others' injuries have left breasts, and amputated in her right breast was severe slashed. She survived the attack and was able to give description of Getch and his van. Other attacks took place. The men were suspects in the disappearance of Carol Papas, wife of a Chicago Cubs pitcher, Milt Papas. She disappeared on September 11, 1982. Her body was recovered 15 years later and death was ruled an accident. Oh. When Getch was first arrested, he had to be released since the police had insufficient, in, not enough evidence to connect him to the crimes. After further investigations, though, the police discovered that in 1981 he had rented a room in a motel with three friends, each with conjoined rooms. The hotel manager said that they had held loud parties and appeared to be involved in some kind of cult. Robin Gitch was the first arrested at October 20th, 1982, after his van was connected by the police in October 6th attack. Several days later, Gitch posted bond and was released. Police rearrested Gitch on November 5th and then tracked down the two men, other men, sorry, other men, Edward Swerter and Cocoloros, or whatever their last name, brothers. Geertz was later indicted and ordered to be held on $1 million bond. Andrew Coloros was arrested on November 7th and he had Spritzer later. They were indicted. Had Spritzer later confessed to up to 18 murders. 3 days later, they were indicted and ordered to held without bond. Thomas Coloris was arrested on November 12th when he interrogated and he confessed that he had others had taken women back to Gitcher's place, who Gitcher's allowed a satanic chapel called his place is called Satanic Chapel, and they had they had raped and tortured women there and amputated the breasts with wire garrote, Garrote, a wire one, whatever that is, garrote. Cocorellas went on say that they would eat parts of their severed breasts as kindly as sacrament and that Kitch would masturbate the breasts before putting them in the boxes. Gorillas Kitch claimed Gorillas claimed that he once saw 15 breasts in a box. Kitch, the only member of the gang to maintain his innocence, was later been found guilty of the murders due to a lack of evidence. 1983, he was convicted of uh, uh, ag- uh, aggravated murder, aggravated kidnapping, degree sexual assault, and rape for the non-fatal rape of assault of Beverly, Washington. Gecht was sentenced to 120 years in prison. Before sentencing Gecht, Judge Francis McMahon told him devil would only a devil would do two things. An animal would not do these things. A monster would. He put he pointed out that Gitch had left Washington for dead and was lucky not to be on not to be tried for murder. Gitch was serving his 120-year sentence at Danville Center. His next parole hearing is October 10th, 2042. We're in 2025. Oh, yeah, 2042. Uh, See ya. When he will be 88 years old. In 1994, Spritzer, in a bid for leniency, pleaded guilty to murder in the death of Schumack, Rose Davis, and Sandra Delaware, and Raphael, as well as attempted murder, aggravated kidnapping, deviant sexual assault, and rape. He was sentenced to life in prison without parole. In 1986, Spritzer was convicted of murder and aggravated kidnapping in the death of Linda Sutton. The prosecution saw a death sentence. During the sentencing, during the sentencing phase, Spritzer attorney Carol Apperson argued he was immature, impulsive, and sympathetic, and was following the orders of the gang leader Robin Gitch. The description of the lonely person who would do almost anything to please his friends. The prosecution described Pritzker as every woman's nightmare, calling the gang cowardly weasels who roamed in packs to prey on women. Pritzker was sentenced to death in 2003. Pritzker was commuted to life in prison without parole. Governor George H. Ryan commuted the death sentences of everyone on death row in Illinois, concludes Andrew Kokelas, and Governor Ryan only and Governor Ryan's only execution just over 2 months only execution just over 2 months into his administration. Andrew Kokelas was the last inmate executed in Illinois about 12 years before Governor death, Governor Pat Quinn signed legislation. Just give me a second or two here. I'm just gonna see if I can see, but I don't know. I hope this is better, but I can't see very well. So, but yeah, to abolish the death penalty on March 9th, 2011, commute 15 death sentence to life in prison without parole. In 1985, Andrew Corrales was convicted of murder, aggravated kidnapping, and rape in the death of Rose Davis. The prosecution sentence phase, Andrew attorney said his client had been a following, not an organizer. Not the Prince, Maver, and Davis, not the prime mover of Davis after murder. Jury spared Andrew life after deliberation for 90 minutes, and he was sentenced to life in prison without parole. On March 18, 1987, Andrew was convicted of murder and aggravated kidnapping and the death of Lorraine Balsawski. He was sentenced to death on April 30th, 1987, and executed by lethal injection on March 17th, 1999. He declined the last meal. Andrew's last words were to the Balsawski's family, "I am truly sorry for your loss. I mean this. I mean this incredibly." He then cited verses from the verses of the Bible, looking of Exodus and Proverbs, and added, "Repent ye, for the kingdom of heaven is at the hand." Thomas Corrales was convicted of murder and rape in the death of Lorraine Balsawski. As a reward for his de- de- detailed confession, he was sentenced to life in prison without parole. How can you be rewarded? No, seriously. I'm gonna go out and kill somebody. I'm rewarded. Hey, that sounds good, but I don't fucking think so. So yeah, without parole on appeal, Thomas' rape conviction was reversed, and he won a new trial on on his murder conviction. Rather than face a retrial, Thomas pleaded Thomas pleaded guilty to Podwosky murder in exchange for a 70-year sentence. If I get a retrial, I won't even ask for 70. I would just ask for at least two, right? Why 70? From the death, whatever. 70-year sentence. Charges in the murders of Seth and Linda were dismissed as part of the plea agreement. Thomas was scheduled to be paroled on September 30th, 2017, but was denied release after he failed to first approve place to live. He was released from prison March 29th, 2019. As of June 30th, 2019, Thomas lives at the Way Cross Ministries at 215 E New York Street in Aurora's, Illinois. That means he lives in the church, basically. So he's like forgiven. But hold on. In the interviews with WBBM/TV, Tom Thomas proclaimed his innocence, saying, "Everybody thinks I'm a monster. I'm not a monster." According to the IPA Sex Offenders Registry website as part of 2024, Corrales currently resides in Peoria, Illinois. At the time of his arrest, Thomas Corrales was a painter with no criminal record. He was described hearing as a hearing a borderline range of intelligence with an IQ of 75. David Koresh. In March 1999, Robin's son, Robin Korech's son, 18-year-old David Korech, was charged with first-degree murder for the gang-related killing of Robert Cruz, 35, on January 29, 1999, in northwest Chicago. Two other men, 19-year-old Richard Quell and 27-year-old Ruben Hernandez, were also charged. David Koresh, the trigger man, was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to 45 years in prison. He he has murder on a sentence for he has a project parole date on March 2nd, 2044. Richard Quell, a lookout, was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to 30 years in prison. He has a project parole date March 1st, 2029. Ruben Hernandez, who planned and coordinated the shooting and convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to 60 years in prison. He has a project parole date December 12, 2059. All three men serving their sentence at Pontiac Correctional Center. On May 25th, 2022, David Koresh was granted a new trial. Well, that's Robin Koresh, and I must have been doing something right with that, but hey, I don't know what I was doing. So thank you, everybody, and I'm glad this didn't black out. So thank you very much, and have a good day.